Hey, my feel good friend, and welcome to Minisode 29 of the Feel Good Social podcast. This is the final Minisode for 2021. I'm so excited to move into 2022, and I'm so excited to just chat with you in today's Minisode about how you can reflect on this past year of 2021 and use this reflection to move into 2022 with gusto, with enthusiasm, and carry this through 2022 to make 2022 your best year yet, because I believe the best is yet to come for you, my friend. I can feel it. I feel that we are on the cusp of some sort of innovation. Honestly, man, I don't think I would have said this last year at the end of last year. I think that I was excited, but I think I was still feeling a little uncertain, not knowing what was to come in 2021 and all of those things. And honestly, 2021 was pretty hard still for a lot of us, right? And it still is. We're still moving through some challenges, hardships, all of these different things, uncertainty. But I feel it. I feel 2022 is going to be a year of excitement, of innovation, of challenges and lessons and stuff like that. Yes. But also I can feel the energy right now of the world. We're getting a little woo here for sure, but bear with me, my friend. I can feel it. I have a feeling that 2022 is going to be amazing, and I know it's going to be amazing for you too. Okay. So in today's minisode, I'm going to be chatting all about how I personally reflect on 2022. I'm going to be 2021. I'm going to be outlining different questions that I really would love for you to ask yourself, and sharing a few of my answers. I actually haven't thought about my answers to these questions yet, so this is going to be fun. And also, maybe provide you with a few thoughts on how you can take these questions and the lessons learned and your reflection on 2021 and move into 2022, because I personally turn this into excitement and enthusiasm and looking forward to opportunities. And I hope that this mindset that I adapt, that I'm sharing with you today, can also help you do that as well, right? So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right in. Hey friend, and welcome to the Feel Good Social Podcast. I'm your host, Kinsey, and I'm here to help you market your business in a genuine way that works without wasting your precious time. On this show, we chat about social media strategy and mindset tips with a focus on, you guessed it, feeling good. So sit back, relax, and enjoy some genuine conversation for the good of your biz. Okay, my friends. So before I forget, before we dive into these questions of reflection and all the different things, I want to remind you that if you do enjoy the Feel Good Social podcast, I would love, love, love for you to share it with someone else who also loves listening to podcasts, who could also use to listen to the Feel Good Social podcast and become a weekly, feel gooder. And also, if you enjoy it, make sure that you share this episode to your Instagram stories and tag me. I'm at Feel Good Social. I would love to see it. And make sure you tag me too, because if you don't tag me, I don't see it. And I want to be able to see it, not only to say thank you, you're amazing, and connect with you, but also so I can reshare it and spread some of the love right back to you, because you deserve to show up on my Instagram stories if you'll share in my podcast. Okay. So make sure that you share it and also tag me at Feel Good Social to your Instagram stories. And when you do that, I'll totally reshare it, because I so appreciate you tuning in, my friend. And I get so excited when we get to connect over on Instagram. Okay, so when it comes to reflecting on past years and then looking forward to the new year, my favorite thing to do is really, firstly adapt a mindset of grace, right? Take some deep breaths first and just remember that this reflection isn't about you being hard on yourself or feeling guilty about the things that you didn't achieve or feeling bad about the things that you think you might have failed or gotten wrong or whatever it is, or like the hardships that you navigated or anything like that. Like reflection is not to like make you feel bad about the past year. Okay. I really want to drive this home real quick because I think this is something that a lot of us struggle with. And I'm raising my hand over here. Okay. It's easy when we think back on past experiences, and especially year long, like years like this, where we think back on all the dreams that we wanted to achieve that maybe we didn't make happen, or we think back on, the stuff that we didn't feel like we handled in the best way, or like the lessons that we had to learn and all stuff. And we can get down on ourselves for not doing the things, for not handling things in the best way, for all that stuff. I do not want you to get down on yourself. So if you are hearing that negative Nancy voice in your head right now, my friend, I'm going to kick you in the butt right now. I'm going to tell you, let it go. Okay. Drop any guilt, shame, negative emotions that you have on this past year. It is in the past. It is done. Okay. Like we can't change anything about what happened, and it's okay. Like whatever happened in this past year to you, it's okay. Like you are currently in this present moment right now with me. We cannot change the past. I'm sure it was challenging. I'm sure maybe you have dealt with some grief over the past year and hard times and all this stuff. And I'm here right now to tell you to let go of like any negative emotions that you are putting on yourself, right? I'm not telling you you need to let go of any grief that you're feeling, any sadness that you're feeling, any anger that you're feeling. Like you don't need to let go of any emotions that you're feeling. Those emotions are welcome here. And I think that it's good to be aware of them and embrace them in a way. I'm telling you to let go instead of any secondary emotions that you're putting on yourself. And I'm starting to chuckle right now because I feel this deep in my heart, how I feel guilty for being mad or I feel guilty or ashamed for being overwhelmed, right? And it's not the overwhelm or the anger that I take issue with. It's the guilt and the shame that I'm putting on myself, that I'm adding layers of emotion to my emotional load that is just unnecessary. Okay. So that's the first thing I wanted to drive home when it comes to reflecting on this past year. I know it can be easy to add to your emotional stress, to judge yourself, to feel bad about the things that you didn't achieve and all this stuff. And if you are ever putting emotions on yourself, I want you to slap yourself in the wrist because it's unnecessary. The past is the past, and all we can do is reflect on it, give ourselves some grace, give ourselves a little like cheek wiggle, give ourselves a hug and let it go and just say, okay, this is the past. I'm accepting it. And I'm also being observant of it, reflecting on it and learning from it and moving forward into the future, because the present moment and the future is what we can change and what we can, shift our energy around and all those things, right? So that's the first thing I wanted to say, because I know it can be easy to do that. What we are about to do right now is reflect on your past year with curiosity, with love, with grace, with like amusement even. I don't know if you caught me. My brain tends to like jump around all the time, you guys. So sorry if I ever mention anything that you're like, what is Kinsey talking about? Because it happens in my personal life a lot. But when I was talking about the cheek wiggle, this is something that I learned from Elizabeth Gilbert. Actually, she was saying like, I like to look back on my past self and be like, oh, sweetie, you were trying so hard. Like, I see that you thought that was the right decision when you jumped off that cliff with a backpack full of bricks or whatever. Like, that's kind of the analogy she uses. I see that you thought that was going to work, and then you just crash landed. And oh, honey, I'm giving you this big, gracious hug right now because I see that you were trying your best, and that's the best you can do, and it's okay. Like that's what I mean by the cheek wiggle, just so you know. So look back on the past with grace, with compassion, with the, okay, yes, we were trying our best and we're going to learn from it and we're going to keep moving forward and do the best we can in 2022 as well. And probably in 2023, we're going to be looking back in the same way, right? So it can be kind of with amusement as well. But some of the questions that I love to ask myself when I'm reflecting on things, and especially the whole year, is what did I do well this year? Right? Because I think a lot of us tend to look back and be like, oh my gosh, look at this cringy moment. Look at this thing I failed at. Look at these ways that I handled myself that like I don't even really want to remember. Right? But we tend to gloss over or forget about the things that we really did well. So I want you to look back on this past year and think, oh, heck yeah, I did this thing really well. Oh, heck yeah, I got these results. Oh, heck yeah, I changed my clients' and customers' lives in this way. It is so, so important to really, really allow time and space to recognize your accomplishments and really allow them to sink into your bones. Okay. If you're anything like me, celebrating your wins, your accomplishments can be really hard, right? Like, even myself, like knowing that I need to do this, it's easy for me to be like, oh, yeah, I did that. Yay. And then like move on really quickly. So, what I want you to do is think about all of the things that you can legitimately say, heck yeah, I did a good job at this, and let it sink into your bones. Allow yourself to truly believe it. And another thing I want to say when it comes to reflecting on the things that you did well and your accomplishments in 2021 is goals are not necessarily black or white. It's not win or fail, honestly, my friend. Like, I don't want you to look back at the past and be like, well, I did this pretty well, but like I didn't reach the goal that I wanted to or get all the way to the results that I wanted, but I still like put in the effort and did a good job. Like, no, we need to be able to evolve our goals and evolve our accomplishments over time and look back and say, heck yeah, I got to 3/4 of the goal that I set for myself, and I put in a lot of effort, and I still changed a lot of lives, and I did my best work, and celebrate that. Because it doesn't matter. Like, your results don't matter as much as the effort that you put in and the things that you actually do achieve. I think that a lot of us struggle to. We look at the big picture goal and the end goal, but we forget to recognize ourselves for the middle pieces. And I don't care if you met your end success goals, you still put in a lot of energy and time and work and probably money into the things that you did last year. And also, if you had a goal of helping, I don't know, 10 clients, and then you ended the year with 9 clients, 8 clients, 7 clients, like whatever you ended the year with, you still helped 7 clients, my friend. Like, the fact that you didn't get to 10 clients, it doesn't diminish the people who you did help. So think back on the past year objectively. Let go of any little voices in your head that are whispering, like, but you didn't reach your goals, but you didn't do that. No, tell them to just like be quiet for a moment and really look back objectively and be like, okay, even though I didn't hit my goal of 10 clients, I still helped these 7 clients in an amazing way. Maybe you launched a new product and you could have gotten 0 results, like 0 signups, which, by the way, I have definitely launched a lot of products that like 0 to 1 to 2 people have signed up for, right? Like, that happens to all of us. And even if you would do something and you did completely quote unquote fail, my friend, I still count that as a win because you still put in the effort. You still put yourself out there. And that is something that I can respect. And that is something that I think shows like true success in you as a person and true potential for your business. Okay. Especially moving into 2022. If you put yourself out there in 2021 and got crickets, that's okay because we are going to put ourselves out there again in 2022 and you're going to learn from what maybe didn't work last time and make changes. And this time it's going to be awesome. Plus, any effort that we expend, any time, any energy we expend in our businesses, I think deserves a freaking pat on the back and deserves to be recognized and honored. So I just had to say that. Let's start with what did we do well this year? And I want you to really try to look it up objectively and think about it that way, because I know we can be our own worst critics, right? Okay, so now I would love for you to think about how much have I grown this year? And this is one of my favorite questions to think about for myself because I can feel my growth, but it takes me like pausing and really thinking back and reflecting on it to remember that, right? Think about earlier in the year, or think about things that were causing you stress in the past, or maybe even in 2020 that like don't even bother you anymore. Think back on past things that were really, really stressing you out, but you made it through it. And now those sort of things don't even really bother you anymore. There have been so many places that I used to think that it was the most insane thing in the world and like the craziest thing, the hardest thing, scariest thing for me to do in the past year, 2 years ago in my business that now I'm like, oh yeah, that's pretty easy now. Like for me personally, one thing that really popped out for me noticeably this year was I went on to a fellow podcaster's podcast. Her name is Katie Hawks of the Contagious Confidence podcast. She asked me something about showing up. Oh, she asked me about showing up vulnerably online, right? And it made me think about episode number 3 of the Feel Good Social podcast. That was like 2 years ago, almost to the date that I shared this show. And I shared, I don't know, I called it like the power of vulnerability or something like that, right? And I just really wanted to show up and share my real story and be vulnerable. And at that point in my business, one of the things that I was feeling the most vulnerable about was the fact that I didn't graduate from college. My story is that I moved to Indiana from Montana when I was in middle school, and I really didn't like Indiana that much because it was kind of culture shock going from like the mountains to like the middle of a cornfield, having to make new friends in middle school, and just feeling like I was kind of an oddball, a weirdo. I didn't really feel like I belonged that much. And so I never really liked Indiana. But then I grew up, I got to high school. I ended up meeting a dude who was super cool. He made me feel like I was meant to be somewhere, and we ended up going to Purdue for college. And I was at Purdue and I went for journalism, and I ended up joining the student newspaper and completely burnt myself out working for the student newspaper to the point where I failed out of my communications degree. And it was hard for me because at that point, a lot of things happened at once. I ended up breaking up with my high school sweetheart boyfriend. I, turned 21 and started partying. I failed out of my major because I was working at the student newspaper too much. And at the same time, I was also burnt out on being opinions editor at the student newspaper. I was just feeling so confused, overwhelmed, all the things. And then, and this is where it gets a little hard, right? Both of my grandfathers, committed suicide within a few months of each other. And I was already in this depressed state of like feeling stuck, feeling overwhelmed, all these things. And then both of my grandpas died. And I was like almost shaken awake, right? And I was like, what am I doing right now? Feeling stuck in Indiana, pursuing an English major that I didn't even want to go to school for in the first place, feeling like it's pulling every single one of my teeth to even go to class. Like I wasn't attending classes. I was super unmotivated. I was like, I feel stuck right now and I feel so unhappy and so depressed. And then my grandpa's died and I was like, screw this. I don't want to be living this life. I want to be living a life I enjoy. Life is too short. And I want to live my life in my way to the fullest and pursue joy as much as I possibly can because it's not worth it for me otherwise. It was one of those like life shaking moments for me. So I decided to quit school. Within a month, I found a house on Craigslist and I threw all my stuff in a U-Haul and I drove out to this house on Craigslist. My mom thought that my roommates were going to be serial killers. She was very nervous, but they ended up being these awesome women. I love them so much. I ended up having this like perfect situation for myself, honestly, even though multiple things could have gone wrong. But it was one of those life-changing experiences for me. And it's one of the reasons that, honestly, when it comes to anything in my life, including social media, I really, really find value in creating joy in your process, right? This is one of the reasons I think I'm an Enneagram 7 because joy is such a fundamental value for me. And so that is one of the things that I've learned. Oh my gosh, I totally kind of went on a tangent sharing that story again. But okay, so how much have I grown? When I shared that story in episode 3 of Feel Good Social podcast, I was shaking. I was nervous. I recorded it like 3 to 5 times. It took me forever to edit that episode. I was super, super nervous to not only share that kind of vulnerable moment about my grandpa's dying and taking their own lives and stuff, but also share the fact that I hadn't graduated from college. Because it was a big deal to me at that point that I think things have shifted insanely in the past 2 years even. But at that point in my life, I had been kind of looking at jobs online. This is one of the reasons I ended up just going my own way and starting my own business, because I was seeing all these online jobs saying that you needed a college degree. And then I ended up starting my business, and I was ashamed of the fact that I didn't graduate from college. And I wouldn't lie about it, but I would kind of say things like, when I finished up at school, or like kind of skim over the fact that I hadn't graduated from college. And I was feeling a lot of shame about it. And then at the point when I started the podcast and shared that episode, I was feeling very vulnerable about it. But I also knew that I needed to share that because it was making me feel unaligned. And authenticity is one of my other brand values, right? Joy, authenticity / realness, like showing up in a real way and just being yourself and embracing yourself and who you are as a person was one of my brand values. And so I knew I needed to share it, but I was scared. My voice was shaking, all that stuff. And then on the Contagious Confidence podcast, when Katie asked me about how to be vulnerable and share things and what that relates to with confidence, I shared that story again, like I just did. And guess what? The voice was not shaking. I don't think my voice was really shaking for this episode either, because I feel so much more comfortable with it and confident with it, right? And so that's something that it was like a big moment for me this year too, realizing how much I've grown in confidence and how much I've developed as like a business owner, and my ability to share that story now without feeling any twinge of like shame or fear or like even really having vulnerability fatigue at all. Like, it's just so amazing to reflect on that growth that I've had. And so what does that look like for you, my friend? Like, what instances this year have been really growth moments for you? Maybe you haven't even had the realization yet. Maybe you haven't had the realization like I had on the Contagious Confidence podcast of being like, oh man, I did share that. Like, I did share that confidently. Maybe you haven't had that yet. Maybe this is your moment to have that. What in the past year or even 2 years have really been a big deal for you and been scary or hard or anxiety inducing that now you can realize is not as big of a deal for you anymore? I love reflecting on that. And then also think back to yourself 1 year ago, right now. Think back to yourself in the last week of December of 2020. How were you feeling, right? Where were you at in your life? Where were you at in your business? What were you dealing with? And now think about yourself and where you're at now. And sure, maybe you didn't necessarily meet all of your goals, which, by the way, it is also good to compassionately reflect on why the heck you might not have taken the actions you want to take or reached your goals or anything like that. But I also really want you to focus on how far you have come. Okay. It's so easy for us to reflect on the negative things in our life, the things that haven't happened, the things that we regret, the things that we didn't manage very well, but also think about how much you've grown and how different you are 1 year ago, like from today. And think about the opportunity that you have in 2022 to do it again. Right? Like, we have so much opportunity in 2022 moving to learn lessons, face challenges that make us stronger, right? To see the growth that we might even not realize that we make until we reflect on it, right? And also to take ourselves to that place 1 year from now in December of 2022 and really see ourselves, look back on ourselves and be like, oh, yes, like, thank you. Thank you for taking the actions that you took this year. Thank you for facing the challenges that you faced this year that allowed us to grow into the humans that we are, right? This is why I love reflecting this time of year, because we can not only reflect and thank our past selves through 2021 for whatever lessons we learned, whatever challenges we faced that allow us to grow, for taking the actions that we did take, for accomplishing the things that we did accomplish. And then we can also think forward to ourselves 1 year from now. Let's do the things that is going to allow our future selves to thank us, right? We are currently sitting in the position of our 2022 December self looking back on us, where we are right now, and thanking us in the way that we are now thanking our 2021 selves, right? So this is how I like to reflect, my friend. I really like to embrace the lessons that I've learned, embrace the challenges that I've faced, thank myself for not only facing the challenges and growing, but also the actions that I did take and the things that I did accomplish and all that stuff, and really allow that energy to carry me forward into my new year. And remember that the Kinsey of December 2022 is going to be looking back on my current self and being like, girl, oh, the things that you didn't know. Oh, the things that you thought you were doing right. And then you crashed and burned and all these things. But also, thank you. Thank you for taking me through this year, Kinsey of January 2022. Thank you for carrying me through this year. Like, I so appreciate you. And it just gets me excited. I don't know. Maybe this is super weird, like a super weird way to reflect and think about things, but I hope that it's resonating with you, my friend. Okay. I would love, love, love to hear any insights that you've had from like this reflection. If you've enjoyed it, if it's resonating, any of that stuff, make sure that you connect with me on Instagram at feelgoodsocial. I would love to connect with you. I would love to hear any insights you have. I would love to hear if you found this helpful, or even if you're like, yep, hear what you're saying. Didn't work for me. Whatever you want to share with me, I would love to hear from you. At Feel Good Social on Instagram. Let's connect in the DMs. Let's be friends. It's going to be a great year, my friend. Thanks so much for listening, my friend. For show notes and a whole lot of other awesome freebies, visit feelgoodsocial.com. Simply go to feelgoodsocial.com for all the goods.